Welcome back to Rowing Friends. Today, Adrien and I talk to my friend Dan Anderson. Dan talks about visiting over 300 boathouses, his time rowing with SUNY Binghamton, and what he's doing today in the world of rowing. Thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoy. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah, this is fun. I know you and Adrien have never met, right?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah, that's funny. I think you have a mutual friend maybe that coaches out in Rochester, though, right?
Oh, I was gonna say you, besides you.
Well, yes. Yeah, who's your friend that coached out in Rochester?
So, now I'm gonna draw a blank.
Well,
Sorry, Sarah. Sarah, you put me on the spot. Sarah. So she coached at Brighton for a year or two. So she was a Philly rower.
Oh, okay.
And coached down in Philly for a while. She actually is the significant other, one of my good friends from college, who is from the Rochester area. He was a former national team guy, lived in Philly. That's how they met, and then decided to move back. Well, she's from California, but they decided to move back to Rochester to raise a family. So she coached for a little bit when she had some free time.
Is she still coaching?
No, her little one started school. And, so she wanted to have as much time with the little one as possible. And now that he's going to school, I think she's going to see if she can get back into it. I'm trying to get him into coaching too. He'd be a great coach, but he's got certain parameters of what he wants to coach. He's like, I don't mind coaching juniors, but I want really highly motivated, good athletes that show up. Don't we all, Andy? But that's how he is. So, yeah.
Okay. I just cut out for a second. I think that was me.
Oh, wait.
I am on not the right network here. So, all right. I'm sorry, but I have to change my network. Sometimes.
Okay.
You step out and step back in? Okay. That's fine.
And Adrien, we might have met at the Pittsburgh Regatta a couple of times before that, maybe in passing.
Yeah, because you guys come up for that, so so we may have crossed paths at the regatta. That's a nice one. It's always it's like kind of the beginning of the season for the Masters, but it's the end of the season for the juniors, so it's kind of like a good crossroads of time where the juniors are kind of wrapping up. They're coming back from especially like Scholastic Nationals. I mean, they're finishing that up, and that regatta goes like those 2 full days. So then you see, the Masters coming out that second day, or wait, is it the other way around?
It's usually the other way around. The Masters are in the morning on Saturday, and
Okay.
I don't like telling people about that race because I love it so much. I don't want it to get overcrowded, but it is my favorite kind of small race I've been to. Holistically, everything on the canal. It's, you have a great view of the finish line, especially since they built the brewery right there. And it's just a great venue. They do a great job of hosting. So I really love that race.
Yeah, I mean, you're right about the idea of that if it gets too crowded, it tends to be it's a little much. Yeah, because the space is kind of limited, and even just like rowing up to the start, it's tight. I mean, that travel lane is quite teensy, and then the day goes on, those buoys tend to shift quite a bit. So
shift or disappear. So I refereed for a while too, and I refereed that race once, and the chief ref told me one day, he's like, just be mindful that as you're chasing boats, because for the juniors, it's like a duel. He said, just be mindful that the buoys will disappear on you. And I'm like, okay, he's pulling my leg. He's just making, trying to make me nervous. And lo and behold, they do disappear because it's on an active canal. So when they lock boats in and out, you don't notice a current when you're racing it. But you definitely see all of a sudden the buoys will disappear for about 30 seconds until the water level rises up. Yeah, it's a pretty neat experience.
Yeah, it's a fun race.
Yeah, cool. I can't say I enjoyed bow steering quad in that one, but I mean, other than that, it was a fun race.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's
and that one lane is tight, and then like right before you head into the finish line, there's that bridge, and then there's like a little bit of like I don't know if it's like a dock or something that kind of sticks out, and it makes that inside or the shoreline lane when you're racing back, it makes it very, very tight. And if you're not
Uh-huh.
paying attention, yeah, that it can be, especially if you're head to head with somebody at that point, you know.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
yeah, but it's a
Okay.
good race. They do a nice job.
they
So
do, they
Yeah.
do.
yeah,
Yeah, that's fun. Hmm. Yeah.
very cool.
So Dan, I know a little bit about, I know that you were in the Navy first and then you went
Yep.
to Washington. But yeah,
Yeah.
do you want to tell us how you got into rowing?
So funny how that story kind of the two lead into each other. So I joined the Navy right out of high school and very unathletic in high school. I went to a very small school. We had three sports. We had, was it football, basketball, baseball, and I was not coordinated. I was not athletic in those, avenues. So I didn't really do a sport in high school. I did play basketball because I'm 6'4", and I was pretty tall in high school, so I was kind of forced to play basketball. But I was not very good. I don't think I was like the sixth man on a 5-man team. That's how little time I got playing. But I joined the Navy and got really into middle distance running. You do a lot of running at basic training, and I really enjoyed it. And so I spent 6 years in the Navy, 4.5 on a ship, and we had a deck, an ammunition deck that you could run around. And I forget the metrics now, but it was like 13 laps was a mile.
Yeah.
So I would just go running in my free time. And one of the officers would join me because he was also a runner, and he turned out he had rowed at the University of Chicago.
Hmm.
So he knew my plan was to get out in 6 years and go to college. And he's like, well, you're tall and you like endurance sports. I think
Mhm.
you should really try rowing. So he's the one that kind of put the bug in my ear to get into rowing. And my ship would happen to be stationed in Philadelphia for overhaul a couple of times. And again, like running around an active naval shipyard probably wasn't the safest thing to do. So one of the security guards told me to run up to Kelly Drive and park in front of those old buildings. And
Mhm.
there's Boathouse Row, and that was kind of my first visual into rowing. So the if I don't think if it wasn't for that officer and then being stationed in Philly, I don't think I would have been exposed to know about rowing. But I started at Binghamton. I think when did you were both around 96, 97
Mhm.
college?
Yep.
Yeah. So that's when I started. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, we definitely crossed paths at regattas, I bet,
Yeah.
unknowingly, Dad Vales and States and
Yeah.
a few dual meets that we had. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think I remember seeing Donica because what year did she start at Binghamton?
So
2000.
she started in 2000. Yeah.
So I think I remember
So,
seeing her at down in Whitney Point for one of those races.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. So you're probably there at the same time, right?
So
Or were
I,
you
yep,
gone by then?
I was gone by Whitney Point. So
Oh, okay.
my New York State championships were raced in Rome
Yeah.
at
Okay.
Delta Lake. Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
But I did help set that course up. I
Oh.
was my senior year. They were going to move it from Rome to
Hmm.
Whitney Point,
Hmm.
and they asked a bunch of the athletes from the Binghamton rowing team to walk. It was when the Whitney Point Reservoir was frozen over, and a bunch of us walked it with a surveyor,
Oh,
Oh
and
my
we mapped
gosh.
out the course. Yeah, so
that's
we
so
did
That's
that.
cool.
It
very
was cold. It
interesting.
was very cold,
Hmm.
but
And did were you do you remember the Buffalo bus sinking into the mud? Was that the year? Or that might have
I
been
don't remember that. Yeah,
were
I
you
was.
the
So I
race?
didn't.
I don't remember that.
That was my senior year then.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So what year was your senior year?
So 2001 in the spring would have been
Okay.
was yep.
Yeah. So I remember, I think 2000 was the Empire State Games. If you remember the
Hmm.
Empire State Games.
Mhm.
So Binghamton that summer was the Empire State Games, and I think that was leading up to moving the state championships from Rome to Whitney Point.
Mm.
Oh, is that where they had the games for
Yeah, they
rowing?
had the game. Yep.
Oh,
Yeah. So the Binghamton campus hosted all of the track and field events, but the rowing was up at Whitney Point.
Oh, okay. Well, that's really cool.
Yeah, yeah. And then you started coaching at Burn Hills what year?
Oh boy. So I coached at Saratoga first.
Oh, okay.
And
You were
then
there.
yes. So I coached at Saratoga High School and Skidmore College for about 4 years, between the two programs. And then I stepped away from rowing in 2004, kind of completely. I stopped doing everything. And then my wife, Donica, she started coaching at Burnt Hills in 2006. So that's when I kind of helped her, kind of get back got back into, coaching and helping her out with the juniors in 2006. Yeah. And she coached from 2006 to 2013.
Wow, I didn't realize she coached for so long.
Yeah, yeah. Because I think she took over from Chris. That was Chris's last year.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he left in 2006. Yep.
So our paths crossed there a little bit too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And now you row yourself, right?
Yeah, I do. Finally gave up kind of coaching altogether. So I helped her coach from 06 to 13. And then in between there, I was going to races and just getting really bored, standing around and not having a lot to do. So I refereed. I'd go to I refereed for like 6 years. And then when she stopped coaching, I stopped refereeing. We still help out with the team on the back end, like the admin stuff, but got really into running, got back into running, ended up blowing my knee out twice, had surgery, and my doctor told me to give it up. So he's like, you should get back into rowing. So I got back into masters rowing. I did our master's program for a year, the sweeping, and then decided to buy a single. So I've been rowing the single ever since.
Yeah. You're like thinking to your doctor, like, really? You're going to send me back to this crazy
I know. Well, he's like, is there something you can do that's low impact? And I was like, well, I used to row. He's like, please do that. Stop running. I'm not built for a runner, 6'4", 200 is not really a runner's body. So he said, you should probably get something back into low impact.
Yeah. Yeah. It's Adrien's like music to her ears, right?
Exactly. Getting back into the rowing. So like, how much do you row now? Like,
yeah. So my current training schedule, because we're not on the water, I do 2 lifting classes a week. I do a HIIT class, and then I try to erg 3 days a week. And then I can't erg that much. Once we get on the water, I'll try to do more water practices. So probably, I don't know, 5 days a week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And what are your plans for as far as like racing this year? Like, what are the highlights for your schedule?
Pittsford, of course, the Pittsford Regatta. I don't do a lot of summer racing. I'm not really comfortable doing a racing start yet. And it's, I've been rowing in a single for about 4 or 5 years. I'm still not comfortable doing a racing start. So I haven't planned a lot of summer racing, but then the fall schedule, I really want to get out to the lift bridge in Rochester or in Fairport, but probably like the head of the Hudson, the head of the Fish. There's a race down in New Jersey called the Overpeck Fall Classic. I did that a couple of years ago, which was a really nice race. I did the head of the Charles in a single last year. That was a bucket last. Yeah.
Beautiful weather.
It was great. It was really, really, you couldn't have asked for nicer weather on Friday morning for the Masters, but I don't know if I'd ever raced at a single again. That was.
I want to know more. I don't know if I ever got the full story about that, but I would love to hear that whole experience.
So, I'm not a very good sculler. Let's just say that. And so it was a bucket list to race the head of the Charles. So when I rode in college, the head of the Charles was not it was always a big race, but it wasn't the head of the Charles like it is now. It wasn't this animal. It was a 1-day, race. And it just wasn't what it is, this machine now. And so we never went to the head of the Charles in college. And after, coaching myself and then helping my wife coach high school, bringing athletes out there, we've been volunteering at the Charles since 2014. It's like, I'm a rower. This is a big race. I gotta do it. So I put the bid in and got it. But again, I'm not, I'm middle of the pack, but not, for the local races. But so it was an experience. Drove out Thursday, raced Friday. The race was, I told the guy that was behind me, I'm like, listen, man, I'm not going to cause any incidences. I am going to get out of your way. Like he passed me before the first railroad bridge, the BU bridge. I took Magazine Beach probably as wide as you could take it, probably without getting a penalty because I didn't want to interfere. Rode it very conservatively. Same thing with Elliott. I took the Elliott turn like really wide because I didn't want to be on road 2K with the crashes.
Yeah.
So maybe a little too conservatively. I probably could have done better and had a better course, but because I'm, not confident to do it. But it was an experience. It was, like I said, to say I did it and got it under my belt.
So that one picture that I saw where there was like 4 different singles going in different directions towards each other, was that something you just happened to go around and then somebody got a picture of that?
Yeah, so that was. So I ended up going through the wrong arch at Elliott. I went through the Cambridge arch because there was that melee on the other side, and I'm like, I don't want to get stuck. I almost ran it. I almost docked at Cambridge's dock unintentionally to get around that around that mess.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was fun. But
I was gonna say, did you see the aftermath of that? Like, did anybody get untangled and then start heading your way, or?
I think it was all a blur at that point. I was like, okay, I was like, okay, there's some mess. I use a mirror, and I was like, there's a mess out there. I am not going to be involved. Let me just try to get out of the way. Once they separated, the faster folks did start to repass me again. But luckily, it's close enough to the finish that I was, able to kind of stay away. But you should do it, Kate. I know I talked it up so much. You should try it.
I know. And Adrien mentioned it in a previous podcast. I'm like, oh man, like bow steering. I think even Adrian's like, oh, I thought you would do that. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, I know. I mean, a single is slow enough that, bowing is different, but I've only bowed a quad a couple of times in a race, and it is, even for a slow master's boat, the speed of which you have to react is really, really fast. It's a lot faster than my skill set can handle.
Yeah, it is. It is a lot. It's a lot of communication. You have to react fast. You have to think fast. My words escape me, and I'm saying like, port when I mean starboard. I'm like, no, I mean the other way.
I wish I had this knowledge back when I was in college rowing, because I know most probably college rowers don't or didn't treat their coxswains very well. And I have a new appreciation for their skill and their ability to think fast after coaching them myself, but certainly after doing the Charles in a single.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
That's amazing. Oh my goodness. I couldn't imagine. I mean, like if I was in an 8 for the Charles, and I was like, that's good enough.
I know. So our master's program didn't normally do the Charles. And when was the first year, Kate? Was it 21?
Yeah, it was 21 when we did it. Yep.
Yeah. And the men's set of 4, and I was gonna put myself, in the running to be in the boat, and they didn't want me because I would throw off their age.
Oh yeah.
their age average. I think they're all in their late 60s, early 70s. And I'm not going to mention any names, but a couple of them said they didn't want me because I'd throw off their handicap. So if I did it, I'd love to do it again in a sweet boat or a boat where I wasn't steering.
Yeah. It was definitely such a great experience to do it. I think to do it as an adult was really special too, because, we didn't really have any other goal other to enjoy our experience and, not completely make a fool of ourselves. I think we accomplished that, like we think we beat one team and, Kelsey was awesome and, she made the race like that much better. She kept us straight. She knew what she was doing. So, and you did too. Dan was our coach for most of that season and was there for the race day. So it was a really great experience.
Yeah, that's why like I recommend volunteering too. If you have the ability to volunteer to be a part of it, like you said, my wife and I have been volunteering since I think since she stopped coaching, so 14, and just to be a part of, see the behind the scenes and being part of that energy, it's really fun. So we made a weekend out of it. We went out Thursday, raced Friday. We just hung out Saturday, and it's almost like a homecoming because you see friends and colleagues and people that you coached with or rode with over the past 30 years, and then we volunteered on Sunday.
Yeah. Then what did you guys do? I know Donica always ends up at the info table.
She's perfect for this job. She works one of the info booths, usually like in the center, either like at a Giroux or by Cambridge's boathouse, helping people out. I mean, because she just has this inherent knowledge of like what's going on, and so she's super smart and very friendly. So she's good at that, and I'm a messenger. So as little human, contact as possible with people, because I'm the exact opposite of her. So the biking messenger really helps. It's kind of fun. It's kind of fun too because you get to go to play in places that you can't usually go. Like one year, my stop was Newell's Boathouse, so going into Harvard every 15 minutes to pick up sheets from the referees, or BU's Boathouse, or Riverside, so you get access to these places or talk to people you don't know or get a chance to talk to. So messenger's fun if the weather's good.
Yeah.
If it's but that's what I've been doing.
Variable. Like this past year was probably like the best.
Yeah.
Like it was just like it was beautiful and sunny and just like I'm always cold, so I never like race in my uni. I raced in my uni. Like it was like the perfect like weather, and just like the sun was out the whole time. The water was nice most of the time. I mean, it was great.
Yeah,
It was
they had some good racing. Some
yeah.
there was one year I was cycling and I'm going down like the powerhouse stretch to deliver like the timesheets from the start to the finish. And the wind was so bad, like I got stopped by a wind gust on my bike. And I look out at the poor rowers like in the powerhouse stretch, and I'm like, oh boy. Yeah. You poor kids.
Yeah.
But
so you're still connected with Binghamton to some extent? I know you went back for an event with
a little. I think because we're so involved with our local, like with Burnt Hills, my wife and I are still involved. I've kind of neglected my college team, and listened to your previous podcast about UB rowing, and kind of got me thinking about it more. And unfortunately, my coach, he retired a long time ago, but his wife just passed away. And so a bunch of us went out for her service. And I think that kind of got me reconnected to the program. And so like I've been an admin on the alumni Facebook page for years and really haven't done anything about it. And so between listening to you two talk about UB and then unfortunately, having that get together, right, recently kind of rekindled me to really drive building the alumni relations back up with Binghamton.
Yeah.
So
I know and you had said that, it can be really challenging, especially looking at the COVID years when a lot of those handoff systems kind of fell apart, right? They just might, like a lot of teams that kind of existed before COVID and don't as much anymore. There's just not that continuity anymore, or people that can reach out and ask questions, right?
Yeah, we went out to so last year we went out to a boat naming ceremony at Binghamton, and we were talking to some of the current rowers and some of the alumni that were a little closer in age to the current people who are really involved. And it to your point, it never occurred to me. So Binghamton was a club sport. It was run by the students. We were lucky in my 4 years to have an amazing coach who was there. He former West Side rower. He rode in the West Side in the 50s and 60s. Then went on to Syracuse, but he's just a tremendous guy and a tremendous coach. But it really was student run. And talking to the current athletes, to your point, Kate, like the handoff is gone. Like they didn't even know how to register for a race coming out of COVID, because the juniors and seniors who are running the program, they all went virtual. And then the freshmen and sophomores were on the team, had no idea because the upperclassmen were taking care of it. So they had to reach out to alumni to ask, like, how do I register? So I think it's been a struggle for a lot of those club teams to kind of regain momentum. It's almost like starting fresh.
Yeah. I know. It makes me think of that. Like whenever we try to reach out, or if you go to, like for UB, if you go to their website, I think everything is from 2021 and it looks like it hasn't been touched since. And it's in the Instagram too. You almost wonder, like, does anybody know how to access that? Know how to go in and or tell somebody how to do that and keep it updated?
It's such a nightmare if you lose access to those things. It's really hard to, like, because there's nobody to talk to at Instagram or Facebook or anything like that. Like if you have like a page that had quite a few followers on it, and even if you try to create a new page, you're gonna have people probably going to that first page and looking at things and seeing that, there isn't anything posted since 21, so it must not be active, and they may have created something else because they can't get access to it. So yeah, it's tough for these college teams, for these club teams to kind of keep things moving. So yeah.
And like for social media, right? That's how they have their web presence. Because if they're a club team, they're not officially on the school site. So they have to use Facebook, Instagram, and those sources. But you're right, Adrien. It's like if they lose the account, then they have to start from scratch.
Yeah. Well, not to be downers, but I think the idea is that, I mean, there's so much potential, right? We always say that, like they're at least at Buffalo, we had such a presence at one point, even before we were Division I varsity on the women's side, and it could definitely be that. And it's interesting to see SUNY Albany is kind of taking that now, and they're really building up to be a team in their varsity now. So it's almost like, can we get some others from SUNY? That'd be great.
It's a shame because if you watch like in New York State high school, I mean, that has just grown since 96, when rowing became an NCAA sport, 96, 95. High school rowing in New York State just exploded. And it was nice that UB had a Division I program. And then, so when did they go out? 2016 when that ended? 16, 17. There was a good gap where there wasn't, if you were a female and you wanted to be a Division I athlete and stay in New York, you either had Syracuse, Cornell, Columbia. You didn't have a state school to go to. And it was a shame. I think New York State was missing out on that. With the state schools not having rowing as a program, Division I or III. So it's nice that Albany has come back, but nice to see some more.
It is kind of funny to me because I think I was talking to, I don't know if it was Andy or somebody from our team on the trip, and colleges choose to add rowing for a certain reason, and then they chose to give it up for other reasons, and it's kind of interesting to see, why that happens and to see where it goes. I mean, they give it up because maybe people don't think about rowing, or I think I read that in Buffalo, in the conference that Buffalo is part of, we were the only school that didn't have rowing, or we had rowing and no one else did, just because of the other teams that we played in the other sports. But in Albany, they added it because they wanted to attract a certain type of student, right? Well, that's something that Buffalo maybe kind of lost,
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And that's what I mean. I don't know how true this is, but like I heard, back in the 90s when women's rowing became an NCAA sport, the rumor was that Congress was looking at the graduation rates of Division I schools. And because, let's not pick on football, but football had a very low graduation rate, rather than trying to work on increasing the graduation rate for football players, they said, well, what population of athletes has, high GPA, high graduation rate, high performers? Oh, it's rowing. So let's add that, that'll mask the problem that they were having. So I don't know how true that rumor was, but it's one of but kind of goes what you were saying. Great. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the idea that it could balance out the cost too of football. Like it's
sure.
It can kind of, as far as cost wise, can hang with football as far as like the boats, the people on the team, the travel, all that. Like it's an expensive sport as you start to put all the dollars and cents together. So it makes sense for these universities that need to balance out football that they're doing, bringing in rowing. But then again, like that becomes a downfall, I would think. Like, I mean, UB decided to get rid of it was like rowing. What was it, like was it men's baseball? I forget what the other three sports it was. They kind
I
of
think it was men's swimming and men's volleyball too.
Yeah. So they got rid of a bunch of and sports that people traditionally in Western New York who are going to UB those are sports people play. Like I just, and to have such a large rowing community, like a large rowing community proper. I mean, like we get like West Side gets mentioned in the Boys in the Boat book. Like I mean, they were sending a team out to that Olympics too. So like to have such a deep tradition of rowing in that city and then to decide, oh, no, we're getting rid of it. Like, and the fact that it's SUNY too, like SUNY doesn't have a lot of rowing teams and kind of, it was, we were super sad about it, but you never know. It might come back,
Maybe. Yeah. Maybe this will be the start. Word out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So sorry, go ahead, Dan.
No, go ahead, Kate.
I was just gonna say, what do you see is next? Like, I know you have some races planned. Anything else? And how are you following a training plan? Like, are you working with a trainer or a coach at a distance?
So I just started with the Arion Orion.
Oh yeah.
The former Orion rowers. Yep. So I just started. So there's in Saratoga, Adrien, I don't know if you know where, there's like an elite rowing camp community, Orion, run by Eric Canalano. He has a couple of former athletes that started a master's kind of virtual training group or program. So I literally just sent the email today to start with them. So I'm going to start with them. I have been following an online training program for the last couple of years, but haven't gotten really kind of anywhere with it. So hopefully to get some coaching and follow their training plan. I had a Zoom call with them earlier this week, and they looked at what I was doing, and they definitely think I was going too hard. So it'd be interesting to see how they taper me back a little bit.
Yeah.
But that's about it. Just waiting for the water to get warm so I can get out in the single.
Yeah. That's the problem here. Waiting for the water temperature and then for the water to slow down a little bit. We had some rain the last 2 days. So the water had gotten down to like the flow. It had been up at like 10,000. It's like that. I don't know, was it square foot per second?
Like cubic
feet per second.
Second,
Yeah. So it had been up at 10,000, which is like nuts. And then it got down to like 8 or 7, and then the universities were going out in the eights. And then just the other day it was down to 2,000, but it was cold. It was like 30 something, and the water was still like 40 something because the river froze this year, which is like it hasn't frozen like that in a very, very long time.
Oh wow.
So the water was cold, and the water, as we get the rain, the stuff from like the water level will go up, the stuff on the shore gets pulled off and into the water, and then there's debris, and so we're kind of in that that normal state kind of at this point, or March, where everybody's like looking at the water, like, ooh, we should go out, and then like you'll plan on going out, and then there'll be like 20-mile-an-hour gusts and the
Yeah.
water's too cold and it's too fast. So
So
yeah.
you're on the Genesee out of the Genesee waterways? Is that what?
Yeah, so yeah,
Okay.
that's where I have my boat at Genesee
Okay.
Walking Center. And then we're at the crossroads, what we say of the
Yeah.
Genesee and the Erie Canal. So we can go on the canal once it opens up. And even right now, like with the gates are down,
Hmm.
but that protected area is kind of like a little bit of a playpen
Oh, nice.
for the novices. If you can get a novice boat to row hard enough against the current into the canal, you can sit there and do drills and you can
Okay.
probably about I don't know, maybe 500 meters of water before you turn around and because you'll get to the gate. But they don't start to fill the canal until like late March. So like, or not late March, late April. So then
Okay.
it's completely full like the first or second week in May, which is frustrating for all of the canal teams because we have Pittsford and we have Fairport and then we have Rochester Boat Club too, which is out in Fairport. And so what they do is they come to Genesee Waterways and they row on the river during the spring. So a couple
Oh.
of yeah, so they'll bring their trailers and Fairport last year brought like racks and just left their boats on on like portable racks. And everybody kind of it's like having a bunch of guests at your house. You know what I mean? Like it's like it has that kind of vibe where like everybody's stuff is everywhere. Like people like it's like when you have someone over or a bunch of people over and there's sleeping bags and there's bags everywhere and it's just kind of like this chaos for about 3 or 4 weeks. And like it's always good when someone finally is like, oh, they're filling the canal and like everybody like they leave like in a second. They're like, bye guys, like thanks for letting us stay. But they it's funny because they row the river in the spring. And so any if you talk to anybody who is from a canal team, they're like, "Oh, the river's so rough. It's so awful." And I'm like, "You guys just row it at the worst time. Like the river's beautiful during the summer. Like there's basically no flow during the summer. It's gorgeous. You can just kind of like sit in your single and hang back on the deck. Like it's beautiful, but they never get a chance to row it in the spring or in the summertime because there's no races or anything that they have them come down. And then when they actually do come back, because there's the head of the Genesee, that's in October. And the river gets rough again. We have a
Hmm.
lot of wind. We've got a lot of debris because all the trees are losing their leaves, and
Oh.
so it becomes like this thing where people are like, "Oh, the river's the worst," and I'm like, "You're just not rowing it at the right time. Like it's the best,
But
but they catch it at the worst times, really."
but they're also rowing on a very protected body of water. So they're I think probably to the detriment, right? I think I would if I was coaching a high school team or a college team on that body of water, I'd want to be out
Mm-hmm.
in rougher water to practice. I know like
Well, they do get the wake from the
that's
boats that come
yeah.
by. Like
Okay.
I know someone who when he's training, he'll follow the Colonial Bell, the big boat,
Mhm. Yeah,
like,
yep.
or the Sam Patch. He'll literally
Yep.
row behind it so that he can like
Yeah.
practice like rougher water. Like that's what they do. So they like figure out what time the boat's coming by, and then they'll just literally follow it and try to like row in that wake because the reverberation between that wake
Yeah.
back and forth is torturous, but otherwise, like they're fair weather rowers. I mean, like they've got like glass-like conditions all the time. So coming out to the river or going anywhere else, like I even think the river is relatively protected. When you row on something that's a lot more open, you get used to kind of how it feels to have your on the feather and be like, hitting some wake and you can handle that. Whereas if you're not doing that every day, it can be really rough on race day. You can have a hard time. So.
Yeah, it is interesting, like river rowers versus lake rowers, right? There's a difference. I think like, river rowers have to have, the coxswains have to know how to steer around the river. You have to know how to deal with the current, the flow, turn around in a heavy current, which is difficult. And then the lake rowers, I think the first time I raced at the head of the fish, and just there's, it was flat, but there was this like melancholy, slight kind of bobbing to the river when you're sitting or the lake when you're sitting there. And I think, you don't get that in a lake. You get the regular waves, but not that just regular fluctuation of the body of water. So it's different. They're both different animals.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
interesting, like as you like start to think about like the different types of rowing and like just the conditions can make things like totally different. And like I think about have you done any coastal?
I've seen it, but I no. It's a little
What do you think
thick
of
beyond
it?
my coverage.
Would you do
No
it?
comment.
No comment. Okay.
No comment.
I'd love to try coastal. Like I keep talking to people about that we should do a race from New York to Canada across the Lake Ontario. Like
Oh
I think
wow.
that would be cool. Like, you know, like kind of have like a get some coastal boats and
Yeah.
go all the way across. Like that would be like a great I think it'd be like a great experience because sometimes I mean Lake Ontario sometimes like looks like the ocean. I mean, it's no
Oh,
joke.
for sure. For
Yeah,
sure. Yeah.
that'd be awesome.
Yeah. It does look interesting though. There's like that button that they have to press, right, for the races. I think so.
Oh,
Oh,
when
really? Oh,
when they go out and come
Yeah.
back around.
No, I think like on the land when they get out, they
Oh
have to
yeah,
press
the person who has
oh,
to race
yeah.
on the yeah,
yeah.
because there's like a
It just,
running component in there too. Like
yeah.
you have to jump
Yeah,
out of
yeah.
the boat and then like run. Yeah, run. Is they push the button when they finish?
Yeah, it's a little bit like reminds me of like when you ever tried and do erg relays with the junior team.
Oh,
And it's like how fast can you get out? How fast can you get in? And hopefully nobody falls on the bar, but someone always falls on the bar and
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
painful.
And you have the two people down by the straps who
oh.
are
Yeah.
like ready to like release the shoes so the next person can like jump in.
Yeah.
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 As someone who has to do maintenance on the rowing machines after they're done, I cringe watching them do that. Like the chain is flailing and the handles let go, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
or
I
like,
think they did that once last spring because they had a scrimmage they were gonna do, but the
yeah,
weather didn't cooperate, so they did
I
it
remember that.
instead. Um, yeah, so that was interesting. You know, it's a lot of people in one small space.
But it is fun to watch, like you said, the energy in the room when they're
Yeah.
doing that. It's not just a static, six people racing at a time. It's the whole team's involved. So that kinetic energy of everyone screaming and going at it is pretty cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Amazing stuff.
Yeah.
I had a question for you, Dan. I know
Yeah.
Kate had said that you've been to a lot of boathouses,
Oh yeah.
and so we want to get your boathouse like top. What's your top five,
Oh,
and why do you love them?
okay.
Like what are the great qualities of a great boathouse?
So yeah. So a little bit of real quick. I'll do it right. And you mentioned Adrian too. Like if you're involved in the sports, you have boathouses you've been to. And that's kind of how my list started, right? So either rowing myself and coaching, volunteering, refereeing, started going to boathouses. In 2015, I took on a job at the company I was working for that every 3 weeks I was on call to travel anywhere in the United States. I had no idea where I was going.
Oh,
And you're not there for very long. So I'd hit two or three cities in a week. And so I was like, I can't just sit in my hotel room. I can't sit at the hotel bar. So I just started Googling like what boathouses were in the area.
oh, cool.
So it's kind of really how it accelerated my little boathouse tour. So I did that for like almost 5 years. So I think I'm up to 356 boathouses.
Oh my gosh, one for
Um,
every day of the year.
yeah. What's that?
I said one for almost one for every day of the year. You're getting there.
Yeah.
Wow, you have to write a
30,
book. Oh my gosh.
33 states and 5 countries. So um, a lot of traveling and going different places. So it's interesting seeing how different people do different things. Like there's one call out in I think it was Kansas City. There was nothing more than like three shipping containers and a U shaped with a chain link fence, but it
Hmm.
worked for them, right?
Yeah.
Cheap and it worked, right? Uh, and then you have we talk about Division One, some of those Midwestern Division One teams that have these gorgeous boathouses are huge, but they're kind of sterile.
Mm.
They're sterile. Yeah.
So yeah, it's like if the club was to go away, the team was to go away, you would know it was a boathouse, right? You think it's just some facilities building. So you kind of have all over the spectrum. I think for me, my favorite ones are the ones where you get a sense of history when you go in them
Mm.
and you
Hmm.
can like get that, you know, you get the ghost of rowers past when you walk into the facility, and then also have good boat storage, good workout facilities, kind of the combination of both. So you go to Philly, all those boathouses have such history to them, right? And luck, I think was it 2009, they had an open house where all the boathouses were open and you could do tours of them all. So we went down to that, got to go through and talk to people. Just amazing seeing trophies from the 1870s. But boy, when you get down to the boat bays, it's like I'm getting hives thinking about trying to get a single out, right? Because they're not great. No offense to them, but then you go to some other facilities where it's great, but there's just no history. So for me, like my favorites are that combination of like the history and great facilities, I think. University of Washington, of course, being Washington, you have a sense of history there. It's a newer boathouse, but you get this sense of history because they have all of their memorabilia from the years. But I think they could fit our boathouse, Kate, in their erg room. I mean, that's how big like their facilities are. Harvard has a great one, obviously being Harvard. But I think one of my favorites, and I'm not just pandering to the audience here, but like my favorite is West Side. Because they have great facilities, right? They have great bays, they have a great erg room, they have tanks, but they also have that clubhouse part really has like all the stuff. I know they had the fire in the 70s, then they lost a lot of stuff, but you get a really cool sense of their history there. And it's just, I think that's one of my favorites. And my college coach rode there. So I have a sense of favoritism there, but I do like West Sides.
Have you seen the Fontana? Did you tour that at all?
Yeah, I did. Yep. Yeah. Snuck in there a couple of times. Yep. We went. I went out to Toronto for work and got to see some boathouses out there. But on the way back, I stopped because I haven't been at the Fontana boathouse, and that was open. There was no one around, so I kind of gave myself a little tour. I think maybe someone was on the water. I don't know. But yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I like that about West Side and visiting there again this summer. It was cool to kind of look for my picture and then we have a couple murals on the Black Rock that Amy was down there when she was there for work, and I asked her if she was looking for something to do. I'm like, well, if you can find my mural, I'll take a picture. I haven't seen it, and I don't know. I don't know if it's still there. It's there, but it's hidden behind bushes. So
okay,
yeah.
That was one of the things too. Like when I did my little tour, and I'm there for work, and it didn't matter where I was. Right, if I was in the United States, I had to go to the Netherlands a lot for work.
Yeah.
And then went to London in the UK. And if you walk in and say, "Hey, listen, I'm just visiting. Do you mind if I just look around?" People were like, open arms, give you tours. I got offered. Unfortunately, because of my schedule, I wasn't there long. But everyone asked me if I wanted, like, if you're going to be here in 2 hours, we're going to go out and you want to take a boat out with us? I got, so just very gracious community. But
yeah. So those are your favorites, huh? Harvard.
I think so. Well, but they're all so. I mean, you go to the Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
They have some great boathouses down there. Last year, my wife and I did a tour of England, and the day before the tour started was the Oxford Cambridge boat race. So we started our vacation a day early and went there for the boat race and went through all the boathouses on the Tideway. I don't know. It's hard to pick one, right?
Yeah.
Because of either the history or the architecture. Some of them, like the Oklahoma City boathouses, the architecture is really, really cool and unique. So I almost knocked off my entire bucket list. I'm pretty excited about that. So just have a couple left.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. I mean, and you're right. I mean, a lot of teams are just so open to the idea of like, if you're visiting, it's like, hey, do you want to get in the boat? Do you want to, you always want to, like I haven't personally gone when I've gone out and traveled, I haven't gone to any boat houses and asked, but like when people come here to Rochester, we're always like, oh yeah, we're going out.
Yeah.
Like, come on, get in the boat. So it's so neat that like as a community that we're, that open and bring people in, even though like but we share the same language, we share rowing.
Mm.
So everybody's family.
And yeah, it doesn't even like you're mad like if your English is the first language. Like I said, that happened to me a lot in the Netherlands, going to Amsterdam, and I'm in like work clothes, and I just happened to have a couple of free hours, and in broken English, asking me if I wanted to hop on a boat. Um, I think we were in York, in northern England, and same thing. We were on the tour, we're walking with the tour, and I happened to see the boathouse, so I went down and just started talking to them, and like, well, we'll give you a ride to your next stop if you wanted to if you wanted to come out with us. Like, yeah, it's very, very friendly, good community.
Yeah, I think if we had a magic wand and we could do anything to the Burnt Hills Boathouse, I think a tank room would be really helpful. That would be
Yeah.
one thing. But I think you've really, I don't know how much you had influence over the history of what we do at Burnt Hills, but I think we do a pretty good job of keeping that with the banners that we have and the pictures and everything like
Well,
that.
yeah. So, um, I think that's really important, right? You guys have talked about like the UB process and knowing where you've come from and the history of everything. And like with Binghamton too, right? When I was on the elected board, it was you were given like a banker's box full of material, and that just went from president to president. And so I think a lot of history is lost.
Mhm.
And the internet's great for researching things, but it's also not a great place for archiving things. If you try to go back, like Dead Vales, right? Dead Vales is probably one of the bigger college regattas in the country, and I think most of their races, I think it only goes back to the early, maybe the mid 2000s.
Yeah.
And so it's lost, like all that history is lost. So what happened with our team at Burnt Hills is I kind of became the de facto club historian.
Mhm.
I didn't want to lose that knowledge. I didn't want to lose that information that we were having. And it's, parts are here. We had a poster in the boathouse, like an Excel spreadsheet that was printed out on a plotter that had a
Mhm.
list of all the coaches and board
Yeah.
members.
Yeah.
And it was a little worse for wear. So I took it home and just, put it into a document. And then we just started adding stuff to this history. And it's been nice to have because we have it.
Mhm.
But unfortunately, like with UB or even like Binghamton, um, it's just harder to get that information once you lose it.
Yeah. Yep.
So, yeah, I highly encourage anybody that's involved with the club. If you don't think it's important, start documenting stuff because in 30 years, you're going to wish you want to have that. I think it's good for alumni too, because we've had alumni things, Kate, at our boathouse where you alluded to, we put all the names of all of our state championships up on banners in our boathouse. And we had a function there a couple of years ago where a bunch of alumni came out and they haven't been to the boathouse in 20 years. And I remember one of them like walked in to use the restroom and saw his name up in a banner and immediately ran out and grabbed like half of his boat that was there and like dragged them in. So it was kind of a neat, good alumni relations too, right?
Yeah.
To get them to show that you're thinking about them too.
Yeah.
I think a lot of clubs, like if you're not doing that, you lose touch with your alumni base, and your alumni base can be such a strong piece of keeping your boathouse alive because so I think of like especially like Genesee Waterway Center where you have high schoolers and college students who are coming through this boathouse and their formative time is spent there. I mean days and days on end, 6 days a week for 4 years, whether it's high school or college. That place, that time, that space has meaning to them. And I think as clubs, I think some clubs, especially, I mean, I could speak to Genesee Waterway Center, they don't necessarily keep up with that alumni base. And, and they struggle at times having, people to put the docks in or people to volunteer at races or, financially. And if you just had every alumni, once a year give $1, I mean, you'd have
Yeah.
You'd have
Yeah.
so, I mean, because I mean, how many years is that? I mean, I think Genesee Waterways has been there since the 80s. They've been, and before then they were at Irondequoit Bay. And if you had all the people who had ever, picked up an oar or passed through that area donate $1, you could build a new boathouse. You could run your, all these specialty programs you want to run without having a problem. You'd be able to pay your coach as well too. Um, being able to pull in those alumni because I mean I always think of West Side and of course UB like they hold a special place in my heart. Anytime I go to West Side, I'm like, oh my gosh, I remember being in the tank room and learning how to put the blade in the water and going down to the Tonawanda Creek. Like you have that space in your heart for it. And I think a lot of some clubs are really good at that, like really making sure that their alumni still feel part of the club. But some places just don't, and they lose that opportunity.
Yeah, and I think it's hard, right? I find it hard to not have that connection with the alumni and then turn around and ask alumni for things. And they think,
Mhm.
well, what am I getting out of this? Like what's happening, versus trying to just keep them in your mind and like you want to show how much, the program meant a lot to them when they were rowing and how much they mean to you after they left.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it's also a good motivation for current athletes. We had one, he's in college now, but he walked into the boathouse his freshman year and saw the banners up and said, I want my name up there. And he won his freshman year at States. And then he's okay, I want to be up there twice. And he ended up being there all 4 times, and he won States every single year. But that was like a small motivation for him was to get his
Yeah.
name up in the banner.
Yeah. Yeah,
I would
definitely.
love for US rowing to spend just a year on return to row. I know
Mm,
Hmm.
everybody's big about learn to row. I think like where it's at would be return to row. They put so many people through these programs, whether it's high school, college, master's programs. I would love to see US Rowing do a big push for return to row, bring the people back, like have people be a part of their local clubs and give them an easy way to do it. Because I know a lot of people think rowing has to be 6 days a week
yeah.
and a big
No,
commitment. Like if US Rowing could figure out a way to just encourage people to come back. Like I would love like a whole year campaign of return to row, not
I
learn
think
to row,
that, yeah,
return.
I mean, I think that's such a great idea, right? Because like you said, there's so many people out there that have either, did it in high school, then did a high school and college, or just did it in college, and then they kind of walk away from it.
Yeah.
And I think that would be, it's great. And it would be a way to get the numbers up for US rowing. I think they're struggling right at the national level with things because, they want advertising dollars and they want to get more recognition as a governing body, but they just don't have the membership
Mhm.
to support it. And I think that's a great idea to get just, people involved.
Yeah, bring them back. Bring them back. Bring everybody back to the boathouse. But I think a lot of people don't come back because it does kind of feel like the mafia.
Yeah.
When someone, like, they drag you back in. Next thing you know, you're head coach for a team. Like we have to
Yeah.
stop doing
Yeah.
things like that to people. Like,
But
like
but
that's the
even,
hard part.
like there's a lot of clubs, right? Some of the clubs I think that they're successful at it, they have a lot of athletes on their team, their club, that don't actually row. They just want to be part of like the social aspect.
Yeah.
And I
Hmm.
think, obviously you want to get them in a boat, but just having people at the boathouse,
Mhm.
right? To your point, involved with the club, whether it's putting the docks in once a year or having some type of reunion barbecue over the summer, just to get together with people, and then maybe have a program. Like I think US Roy could really come up smarter people than I can come up with a lot of ideas. But even if it's like a once a week kind of a beer league
Mhm.
row, if you
Yep.
have the foundation, you know how to row. To your point, you don't necessarily have to go out and you're not training for masters nationals.
Yeah. Hop in the boat,
Mm-hmm.
row 500 meters head to head with another
Yeah,
eight and then hop out and have some social time and
yeah,
but even like I think like when as rowers we get so wrapped up in the idea of like I'm training like I am working at
yeah,
this for for something like and I think I think rowing struggles with the recreational portion of what we do because we're just so serious about it. Like, we want the blades to be feathered just right, and
well,
we want
and
we're
going
backing the blade in and all that.
yeah, and traveling right to the UK and the Netherlands and watching some of their like recreational boats, they had a lot of people going out in more open water type
Mm-hmm.
fours,
Mm-hmm.
but on a river.
Yeah.
And so you didn't have to really worry about the set, right? You didn't need the finesse, to your point, Adrien, of like having the connection, and you didn't have to row perfectly in order to have the boat feel good.
Mm-hmm.
And I think just having more touring boat options in the US would be great. Because I think, well, your coach came on last week, right? And she was talking about how
Yeah.
that's the reason why she doesn't want to get back into it, right?
Yeah.
It's all or nothing, and
Yeah.
it'd be difficult to break that mindset.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That would be great if US Rowing could figure out a way to
Yeah,
to combine that return to row and that like recreational piece because I think a lot of people look at rowing and they're like, wow, you guys are super serious. Like I
yeah,
don't know if I want to get involved with this. It's very serious. Like, and then people are getting mad about people not showing up every day and it's just
Mm-hmm.
it goes off the rails very quickly. And it kind of it turns people off and I think that's what keeps people away sometimes. But yeah, and just like Wendy had said, she was like, yeah, she didn't want to do it if she couldn't do it full force. So, yeah.
Well, they have the Irish rowing, and it would be interesting to see. Like maybe we'll have some of them come on because they're all about the party. That's their whole goal is to just because you don't need a lot of skill to learn how to row like that, and you don't have to set the boat. So it's really just about getting in the boat, having fun, and then having a party afterwards.
Sounds like fun. Well, thank you guys so much
yeah.
for
Yeah,
coming
thanks,
out
Dan.
and yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
You'll have to, when are you going to write your book of all of, do you
Oh,
have pictures of all the boathouses then?
I
Or-
do, I do. I, I'm not very photogenic as far as like a photographer, so it's photos of what I find interesting, like
Mhm.
at boathouses, like little pieces of architecture, or sometimes it's broken boats on the side of the boathouse. I thought were interesting names. So I don't know. I played with the idea of starting like a vlog about it,
Yeah.
but boy, it's a lot of effort to kind of catch up with to 350 something boathouses. So we'll see.
Where do you have them right now? Just on like your Google, your own.
Yeah, so I have an actual Google map has a really cool thing. I have a Google map with a pin in every boathouse I've been to, and then I have the photos there with um the number, like this is number one, this is number 100. So I have
Mhm.
them in order. And then what clubs row out of that boathouse.
Oh my
Oh, okay.
goodness.
So I have all that documented. So it's on a Google Drive. So hopefully Google stays in business for a while. I don't want to lose all of that. So, but yeah,
Yeah. Well, we need to get your book written and
yeah.
and get it out to the public because I would love to see all those pictures. Like that's amazing. That's so
Yeah,
wonderful.
Kate mentioned I put them on like Facebook and Instagram. I think Kate sent me a message one day that I killed one of your afternoons at work because she was
Yeah,
just scrolling
probably.
through my thousands of photos of different boathouses around the world. Um,
Oh my gosh. Yeah, every rower would love to see that. That would be amazing. Well, we'll have
it's
to
really,
figure out a way to get that done for you.
yeah. Okay, good. Find an intern.
And thanks for listening. Thank you for
Oh
Yes,
yeah,
thanks for
all
listening
long
to our
time.
ready for
podcast.
Love it.
And if you know of anyone else who wants to come on and chat with us, that would
Yeah.
be amazing. If anyone's
Okay.
listening who wants to come on and chat with us, just shoot us an email and
Yeah, I
let
gave Kate a lead. We'll see what happens with that one.
all right.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yep. All right. Thank
Well,
you
All right.
so much.
all
Thank you.
right.
Great rest
See
of
you
your
at Pittsford.
Yes, yes. We'll have to go over to the brewery and have a beer
Yeah.
together. That'd be
Awesome.
great. All right.
Take care.
Well, take
All
care.
right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.